Whoa, hey guys. Look at that, man. I'm all fucked up. Hey, so I had to get a new phone. My phone finally took a crop on me. Anyways, this video is for entertainment and education purposes only. Any and everything I say could be wrong. Do your own research. Come to your own conclusions. So let me ask you a question regarding research. Did you guys do your research on Hurricane Helene? Remember Hurricane Helene? Remember when that was like the big story for like a week? Dude, okay. Hold on now. Hold on. How many of you have a selective memory where you only like to remember things that you like to remember? But if there are memories that you don't like to remember, you just like, it's like turning off on and off a light switch, where memories that you don't like, you just turn the light switch off and they're not, those memories no longer exist. They're just not even relevant to anything. They're not even there. So how many of you remember the Hurricane Helene story? You remember that? Remember, dude? You don't remember. It wasn't that long ago, the Hurricane Helene story. And all the grifters were jumping on it. Don't you remember all the grifters like fucking Richie from Boston, True Stream Media, the Mark Dices, all these guys? Oh, Hurricane Helene. Because there was so much to discuss about Hurricane Helene. For example, you know, Richie from Boston, you know, he said that it was a weather weapon to intentionally, you know, create poverty and drive all those people into homelessness so that they could come in and take all that land because there was all that gold. All that gold. You know, like when we went into Desert Storm and we were saying, oh, we were going because, you know, Saddam Hussein was a big threat, when really, and like David Chappelle and a bunch of people were making jokes because everybody knew the only reason the U.S. government was going into Iraq was for the gold. You know, that's all it was. But they kept telling us, oh, no, this Hussein Hussein guy, he's just a real terrible threat. He took down the 9/11 buildings. Anyways, let's go back to Hurricane Helene. Remember how it was a real big thing, Hurricane Helene. And remember on the political aspect of it, oh, all these liberals, anti-white liberals were refusing to give services to all these Appalachian whites who had become displaced by the hurricane, and they were all homeless. You know how many thousands of displaced Appalachian whites became homeless because of the Hurricane Helene? And not just Hurricane Helene. There have been other natural disasters too since Hurricane Helene and before Hurricane Helene. Like in the last 5 years, these areas where these hurricanes come in and then they just destroy the entire area and leave thousands of people fucking homeless. I thought, you know, so do you have a selective memory where you just only remember things if they fit your narrative? If the memory doesn't fit your paradigm's narrative, you just turn it off like a light switch. Like, no, I don't remember this, angry hobo. I don't even, that's just old news, man. That isn't even cool anymore. That news it's so irrelevant, Hurricane Helene, right? Well, that was one of the reasons why I mocked all these grifters who jumped. Dude, they jumped so quick on that Hurricane Helene story. For shekels. All for because they're all a bunch of sellouts. And they all talked about how, you know, all these displaced Appalachian whites are being displaced from Hurricane Helene, and it's all a big conspiracy. And that was the other thing I mocked. Is like, dude, a week from now, all of you fucking fake freakazoids are going to forget all about Hurricane Helene, because the next new flavor of the day or week is going to come and erase it all. So just in the last 5 years, you've got Hurricane Helene and these other natural disasters that are just leaving thousands and thousands of U.S. American citizens homeless, right? What do you think has happened to all those homeless people? All those people that got displaced by, we'll just use Hurricane Helene as an example. What do you think happened to all those U.S. citizens who became homeless, those thousands who became homeless because of Hurricane Helene? What do you think happened to them? They all just pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, right? Because America is the land of freedom. America is just this land of all this freedom and opportunity, just all everywhere. As far as the eye can see, it's just nothing but just all this opportunity. And so they all just pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, and now they're back living in houses and shit, right? No, seriously. Or I guess it doesn't matter what happened to those thousands of people that got displaced by Hurricane Helene and became homeless. It doesn't matter what happened to them, because there's a global genocide happening, right? There's Jewish space lasers all over. So the interdimensional beings are flooding into from CERN. It doesn't matter. It's only like 5,000, U.S. Appalachian white U.S. citizens who were displaced into abject poverty of homelessness because of Hurricane Helene. It's only like 5,000. So we got more bigger fish to fry. I mean, we got a global genocide going on here. We got like babies' body parts are flying all over the place in Palestine. Jewish space lasers are just like beaming everywhere. You can't get away from the Jewish space lasers. And don't even get me started on the interdimensional beings coming through CERN. So we just don't have time, Angry Hobo, to be talking about 5,000, Appalachian white U.S. homeless citizens who were just immediately, like overnight, driven into homeless poverty because of Hurricane Helene. We don't have time to investigate like what is going on. I'm sure because America is just this land of endless, infinite opportunity for everybody to just grow and pull themselves up by their bootstraps, that they're all just living in homes again now and stuff. None of them like slipped through the cracks, let alone the majority of them are now just like, eating out of dumpsters and fucking, no. It doesn't matter, Angry Hobo. You're just talking about trivial nonsense. We're talking about a global genocide here. So I watched a Mark Dice video today. And of course, Mark Dice is the expert on U.S. homelessness. And he just said, which they all say, whether it's Joy Reid or it's Don Lemon or it's Tucker Carlson or it's Mark Dice, they all say the same thing. All U.S. homeless citizens are just, mentally ill drug addicts. And Mark Dice literally said this. And everybody's like, yay, all right, Mark Dice, all right, yes. We need to copy and paste this video, and we need to get it to go viral on the internet, because Mark Dice, yay, all homeless are lazy, are just drug addicted, mentally ill drug addict, yay, woo, woo. Now let's get back to the global genocide that's happening. We got a global genocide going on here, guys. Like, you people, it's just amazing to watch how all you people, you just can't see how retarded your society is. And of course, Mark Dice, because it's all about gatekeeping, nobody can ask Mark Dice any tough questions. Because then I would ask Mark Dice, I'd be like, so all those thousands of Appalachian whites that were displaced into abject homeless poverty because of Hurricane Helene, they're all just mentally ill drug addicts? Is that what you're saying, Mark Dice? And that doesn't even include all the other natural disasters that have taken place around the same time as Hurricane Helene, Just in the last 5 years. All these natural disasters that are taking place in the U.S., that are like driving all these fucking U.S. citizens into homeless poverty, those are all just mentally ill drug addicts? Oh, I can't ask Mark Dice that question because Mark Dice is the expert. Well, I really do hope those victims of the Hurricane Helene, they get the treatment they need, you know, that they get picked up, you know, and taken to the funny farm and force injected, you know, mRNA mental health, you know, drugs like Thorazine. So they're doing the Thorazine shuffle, and hopefully too they get forced drug and alcohol treatment with they got a new mRNA injection that just cures all drug addiction and stuff like that. So hopefully they get the help they need. You know, I'm sure that Mark Dice will jump on that story as soon as it comes out. And what a wonderful thing it is that all these mentally ill drug addicts are, you know, getting rounded up and, you know, taken to the FEMA camp so that they can get force injected, you know, mRNA mental health treatment and force injected mRNA, you know, drug addiction treatment and stuff. And, you know, it'll be like, just like the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you know, they just have all these, you know, Appalachian whites who are displaced into homeless poverty because of Hurricane Helene. We'll just pack them all into insane asylums, and we'll just inject them all with mRNA, you know, miracle drugs that cure mental health, mental illness, and cure, you know, drug addiction. And Mark Dice will have his utopia, and everybody, yeah, all right, Mark Dice, yeah, all right, yeah. Oh, but now back to, you know, the global genocide and the Jewish space lasers and the, all this terrible, you know, that the Jews have just taken over everything. You know, it's kind of like the Joker, the movie Joker, where the Joker says, "You get what you fucking deserve." Well, maybe there's a reason that the Jews have taken over everything. Maybe the Goy deserve it. You know. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, but it's okay because pretty soon this will all be over when the World Economic Forum comes in and drives us all into pods where we can eat bugs. Then there'll be no more complaining about how homeless are just mentally ill drug addicts because there won't be any homeless anymore. Everybody will be living in pods in their smart cities, you know, eating bugs and Mark Dice. You'll still get to watch Mark Dice though, because Mark Dice will be given special treatment by Klaus Schwab. You know, Klaus Schwab loves Mark Dice. Mark Dice, his pod will be about probably, you know, 10 times bigger than yours or mine. You know, and he won't need to take the mRNA, you know, mental illness injections because Mark Dice is not mentally ill. So but you know, you might be, you know, especially like if you consider the idea of. Just consider the idea of it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a maladjusted society. Yeah. So are you well adjusted to this global genocide that's taking place? Because if you're not, Mark Dice is going to be, you know, kin, and he's going to call up the funny farm and say, hey, we got a person over here that's getting upset because of the global genocide. You're going to have to go in there and give them some mental health treatment, you know. Yeah. You know, Mark Dice will complain about how China is flooding in fentanyl. Mark Dice will complain about how the Hurricane Helene victims were being treated with anti-whiteism by Red Cross and the liberal. Mark Dice, it's just whatever fits Mark Dice's narrative is the story that he's going to report, you know. Whatever, again, but the operative word is whatever Mark Dice thinks fits his narrative. Now, just because Mark Dice thinks something fits his narrative doesn't mean that it does, you know. You know, you think about these people in the capstone up at the top that puppet Mark Dice all around. Does Mark Dice really think that he's more clever than the people in the capstone that that feed him all his scripts, you know, that feed him his, you know. See, I'm telling you, these people in the capstone, they can think circles around Mark Dice all day. They can keep that stupid motherfucker, you know, chasing a fucking banana like a monkey all fucking day with any and everything. They'll throw in some Hurricane Helene, you know, throw in some, you know, Trump cracking down with federalizing the police in D.C., you know, sprinkle in some, you know, just whatever, and just have Mark Dice running around in circles, chasing a fucking banana like a dumb fucking monkey, yeah. But Mark Dice, he knows everything. He knows it all. You know, so Mark Dice knows that, you know, that all those white Appalachians who were driven into homeless poverty by Hurricane Helene, he knows that they're all just mentally ill drug addicts anyways, so we just need to keep focusing on the Jewish space lasers, you know. And Mark Dice will continue complaining of how the Jewish space lasers have everyone locked down, and it's all the Jewish space lasing fault, and it's always everyone. Yeah, and Mark Dice isn't a paid propagandist or anything either. So, anyways, yeah, enjoy your whatever you call this fucking, you know, circus shit show. You know, enjoy it. Take care. See you, boys.